It's time to walk down Brian's dark alley.
Yeah. Got him now.
Hey everybody, this is Brian, and thanks for coming down the dark alley with me and being brave. On this part of the show, the Necronomicast, we are talking to Jason Parker. Jason is the main man, the man behind the trigger of the Friday the 13th franchise.com website. Friday the 13th franchise.com website. Jason Parker, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Well, you know, I've been following your website for a long time, and I was wondering, now you're calling from, we're talking to you in Wisconsin, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
All right, well, we're in Omaha, Nebraska, so it's probably equally cold each place we're talking.
Yeah, definitely, especially right now, I can guarantee that. It's about -5 where I'm at right now. So.
Oh, it's a balmy 17 here, so... Nice, man. Now, listen, I've been following your website for a long time, and I check it pretty close to every day just to see if there's some glimmer of news about a new movie, about something going on with Friday the 13th. Can you give me and the listeners here a little bit of history with the website? How you came to be such a Friday fanatic?
Sure. Much like a lot of guys and gals who are, probably in their mid to late 30s into their 40s, maybe even 50s, I kind of grew up with it in the 80s as a preteen, and I just really got into it at a very young age, and it kind of carried over into the early 90s. Then when I got into high school, I kind of got out of it for a while, and college and marriage and kids and all that. But I always was a really big fan. I always had collected a lot of memorabilia as a kid. But I really started revisiting the films a little bit later on once news of a new movie was coming out back in around 2007. And it kind of just got my interest back. And I'm like, I think I can do something, good online about this. I can write about the films. I have a pretty good knowledge. And so I started writing for a blog separate from my website that I run now. I did that for a little over 2 years, and the time kind of came and opportunity kind of presented itself that I would create my own website and try to run with it. And it's been great past 4 years, and it's been a lot of fun. So, that's pretty much how it kind of started. Don't want to get too specific, but that's the general idea of kind of how the site became.
Yeah, and what I like about it, what's cool about your website, I hesitate to call it a fan site because sometimes when you say a fan site, you think of something that's kind of slapped together. But your website, it almost seems like, and maybe you can touch on this a little bit, do you have some kind of cooperation or, I'm not asking for any trade or industry secrets, but it seems like that you get a lot of good news from places, I'm just guessing from, insiders at Paramount or some of the rights holders or Cunningham. It seems like you've really, hit the nerve in 4 years with, your insight into the franchise.
Well, no, thank you. I appreciate that. The site itself started off as kind of a fan blog. Originally it was just my way of just kind of getting my thoughts and ideas out there to the fans. And over the years, even before I started my own site, I had made some connections with people, not only, people who were involved with the films or, people who were involved with the documentary that came out a couple years ago, but just with people in the community, just fans like you and I that either were into prop collecting or other memorabilia. And when I started to kind of make connections with various people, you put all that together, along with social media and some other people I've met online, I started to kind of create a nice, kind of a cool network of gaining information. And unfortunately, there's things I find out from time to time that I can't put on the site because I've kind of made promises that I wouldn't put it out there. It's not ready to be made known to the world, so to speak, which is kind of frustrating for me as a fan. I love to just get everything out there I know. The site, like I said, started off as a blog, and it's kind of evolved into, my goal was to make it more like a news site, almost like an official site, although it's not really an official Friday the 13th website.
Sure. Now, I'm sorry, but I was going to say, have you had any kind of talk, any kind of contact with the people from Paramount or New Line or anything like that? Because your news is really cutting edge, and you use a lot of graphics from the films or anything. Or do they kind of treat you like, hey, this guy is actually doing a really good job and kind of doing our work for us?
Sure. I haven't spoken or had communication with anybody from Paramount or Warner Brothers as of yet, but in talking with some people that I have contact with within the industry, the idea is that they are very much aware of my website, but they do leave me alone, I guess you could call it, because they do know that I am promoting their product for them free of charge. And I don't put anything out there that, like I mentioned before, that any news about film production or television shows or anything like that would kind of undermine what they're developing for their projects, and they kind of appreciate that. So they let me just report on anything I can that is allowed. And as long as I keep doing that, they're going to leave me be and not try to shut me down. So I guess that's kind of a mutual understanding of sorts.
Well, that mutual understanding is great because, with our podcast, I've only been involved with it for about a year, but it has a history going back about 100 episodes. And through there, Wayne and the rest of the guys on the show have interviewed Adrian King. They've interviewed Brad Fuller, talking about the franchise from the past all the way up to, Brad Fuller was talking about his involvement with Platinum Dunes, not only with Friday, but the other movies that they had going on at the time. Speaking with the the future of Friday the 13th, and you're talking about your website and everything, the future, at least it seems to be pretty bright. I mean, it seems like a movie's chugging along, pretty slow out the gate, but it seems like they've got a steady plan. There's talk of a TV show. I haven't heard a lot about that, but they're moving and developing that. There's also a video game. Plus, you
That's right.
Yeah, you factor in all these other collector toy companies like Nika and is that how you pronounce it? NECA.
Yeah, some people say Nika. I've heard other people say NECA. I guess it's kind of an apples to oranges kind of thing. It's really not that big a deal, I suppose. But I always say Nika.
Well, I think on this show we're gonna just say it's called Nika. That's what we're gonna do.
So sounds good to me.
Yeah. So my point is that it seems like 2015-16. We got David Bruckner that's been hired. I guess he's been on the payroll for a year. They're going to hire some some screenwriters. They're sifting through that. They want to start filming at the summer of 2015. So it looks like you're going to be a pretty busy guy with updates and whatnot. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm really excited because I haven't, since I started running the site, there hasn't really been anything concrete about the film, a new film at all, or a television show. It's always kind of rumors and some kind of, it's pre-production information. So I'm really ready to go. I've been ready to go for a couple of years now. In fact, I was excited back in 2010 when Platinum Dunes originally scheduled their sequel for August 13th of 2010. That was way back.
Right.
And then they obviously scrapped plans for that, but I'm ready to go. I mean, I've actually prepped my site and kind of have it laid out to go to where once we start production and news starts coming out about casting and everything else that, I'm ready to start reporting on that. So it's an exciting time. I was a little disappointed that this year they ended up not being able to release the film, because I was pretty anxious about that myself, but as you and most everyone else knows who are fans and who have been following that, it was pretty clear that by the time we got to the end of 2014, that probably wasn't going to happen. By the time you film a movie and try to promote it, it just wasn't going to come out by the dates that they were planning on. But the television show, I think the television show honestly is really something that fans need to really pay attention to, because if they're able to pull off what they want to do, I think it's going to be what every fan has really been wanting in the films for the past 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
And so that...
Yeah, what I was going to jump in with is that I've been reading the same things that you've been writing and and everything that you've been reporting on. And, we've been talking about it a lot on the Necronomicast, that there is, like a there's like a golden age of horror TV shows right now. Like you've got The Walking Dead, tying back to the graphic novels. You have Hannibal that's kind of filling in different empty spots that the movies and the books kind of, skipped over each other. And now even Bates Motel is going back to these old films from the 60s and whatnot and throwing a modern spin on it. Might we see something about Jason Voorhees and the residents of Crystal Lake? I'd like to see something about, the residents, the people that live there, not just the campers. I'd like to see something about them on the TV show. Like these people are living there in this Higgins Haven, Packanack Lodge. They're living near this Pinehurst, nut house, all their lives. And there's this dude, running around the forest, with all these missing people. I just think there's something to be. There's a huge. It's just untapped. What could be what can be said. So I hope you're right about the TV show. And so you're probably talking. Yeah, you're hearing things.
Definitely.
You're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. I really think that if what their goal is, from what I've heard, is to do exactly what you mentioned. It's really diving into the town. It's getting to know the characters, maybe that have been represented on film, but not necessarily that, but also introducing new characters, trying to tie together the mythology of the Voorhees family, the town itself. And the tricky part of it is obviously there's fans who've been following the films for, over 3 decades now. You want to satisfy those fans, but you also have to be able to bring in fans to the TV show that maybe aren't as familiar with the films itself. And so I think that's what they're busy developing right now. And I think part of the reason why they weren't able to get the TV show out in 2015 is because they are trying to develop a very cohesive storyline. And also there's a lot of people involved in the production, a lot of different companies. So when, someone says a lot of cooks in the kitchen, the television show is definitely representative of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I when you said they're trying to tie it into to different things, I mean, you got Paramount got their hands in it. They got New Line. Regardless of the Interstellar deal, I mean, that's going to lapse at some point. But everybody's got to get paid at the end of the day. And Sean Cunningham wants his take. And I just think if they look toward the Bates Motel model. Bates Motel was kind of a dead franchise, Psycho was, kind of a dead franchise, but, now they're gearing up for season 3 and they've got big stars. The writing's great. It's really exciting. And it kind of takes that whole myth of that town where the Bates Motel is and explodes it with different subplots and the marijuana growing thing. And then you've got the mob.
Oh yeah.
You got all these great things. And I think, oh my God, with everything going on with Crystal Lake and all the different subplots that they've tried over the years, like people, opening the camp or developing the camp for condominiums, and then you got, the guy killing people. I mean, it's just so untapped. It's almost begging for a television show.
I agree. I mean, the stories are there. I mean, and I think that's why the franchise as a whole has been able to last as long as it had. I mean, especially with being big gaps in years between films being released, that the interest is definitely still there, as opposed to, like a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, where there's still a very big fan base there, but there just doesn't seem to be the longevity with that story, like a Friday the 13th, where, you have a huge town and you have, a backstory of the Voorhees family to kind of look at and go forward with. But the television show is interesting because it's basically Sean Cunningham's baby in a lot of ways. I mean, he has a lot of production partners that are, going along for the ride, but he's not really tied to the studios as much to make that show as the films are. So he kind of has a little bit more free reign to do what he wants with that, which is really exciting and very interesting to see what he does. Yeah,
he's the guy that came up with the original vision, him and Victor Miller. So, to tie this all up, we are speaking with Jason Parker. He's the main guy between www.fridaythe13thfranchise.com, an unofficial but pretty much official news outlet. Giving you some props there, and then also, if you want to jump in like we do with the message boards and the forums, and if you want to debate this and that about, Jason Goes to Manhattan or anything else, you go to FridayThe13thFanatics.com, which is the forum website. So as we wind down this little interview that we have with you on the Necronomicast, Jason, and it's been great to have having you here with us tonight. I got to ask you some quick fire questions. Just your opinion.
Okay.
It doesn't. I'm not trying to nail you down here. Number one, did Jason truly drown?
Did Jason truly drown?
Yeah.
Boy, one of the big questions. I would go with yes.
All right. See, I think that he, kind of got washed up on the shore and was kind of coughing up lake water and then lived in, like a wild child. So, okay, we're both right. Okay. Okay, Friday the 13th, number 2. The jump at the end when he crashed through the window, dream or real?
It's a dream. I know people hate when I tell them that, but it's a dream all the way. Even though Ron Kurz swears up and down, the writer for Part 2 swears up and down in every interview he's ever done that he wrote that as a dream. As reality. The way it's filmed, it's definitely a dream. That's at least my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, did he die did Jason die at the end of number 3?
No.
I don't believe so either. I came up with this weird scenario where Jason, let's say how it is. He's deformed. He's got some facial deformity. I always thought that Jason had like a really thick skull, and so when Chris hit him with that, axe, it was enough to knock him out and kind of wedge in there a little bit, but it didn't cause a fatal blow. All right.
Exactly. Correct.
All right. What's your favorite number? What's your favorite number? What's your favorite movie?
My favorite film is The Final Chapter, although I think the best movie is the original. But my favorite is The Final Chapter. Okay,
I would go with my favorite being 6, but the scariest and I think a true, if I was going to show a newbie a Friday the 13th film, I'd show him 4. I'd show him The Final Chapter, but sitting down, I just love watching number 6, and so. I think Part 6 is I think Part 6 is probably the most mainstream film. It's done so well, and you can bring anybody in to watch that film, and they get it. They just get it. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And then my last question for you: it's much maligned, but what do you think of 2009? I actually thought it was a really good movie. I know of all the complaints about the film. I think a lot of the complaints about the film are very nitpicky, and some other complaints are very unfounded complaints. I think people really picked apart that film because it had been such a long time since a film came out in the franchise that actually kind of mirrored or mimicked the original set of films from the 80s, that I think people wanted it to be so bad, like The Final Chapter or Part 2 or something like that, that it never was going to live up to the expectations they had. But I'll be honest with you, I think it's the best film the franchise has had since probably Part 6, honestly. Yeah, I really do. Yeah, you know what? I would agree with you. I went into the theater, reading stuff like, the website and just everything else on the web. Went into it expecting I don't know, and I came out really liking it. And then I bought, the Blu-ray, loved it. The only thing I didn't dig, and I'm not, putting it down, I think
Sure.
I think Steve Jablonsky, who made the score, is a competent musician and composer and film scorer. I like what he's done for the other movies, and I really liked what he did for Nightmare on Elm Street, even though that was not a great film.
I agree.
I think
I totally agree with you on that. Yeah,
I think he's competent, but the music missed a little bit. But boy, I thought Derek Mears was red hot. I thought the girls were smoking. I thought the way it was filmed. I just thought I thought they actually kind of hit it out of the park. I thought I was very satisfied with that film. So I'm glad we feel the same way. Especially
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of a guru.
Yeah.
You're a guru with Friday the 13th. So I'm glad we've got some common ground.
Yeah,
there.
no, I completely agree. I love Steve Jablonsky. He's a great composer.
Right.
He's just he's in the wrong franchise. His style just doesn't fit that film at all. And he tried, and I give him credit, but it just doesn't fit that well. Although, it's still not bad for the film. It works, but it definitely could have been better. I agree with you that I thought his Nightmare on Elm Street score was fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought it fit that. That is really good.
Yeah, he used a real orchestra for that. And I think maybe, I missed the strings and the background with a lot of the Necronomicast guys were musicians. Three of them are drummers.
Okay.
We all, we're musicians around the Omaha area, and so we really kind of key into that. And I missed the strings, the high pitched strings and the just all the tension that used to bring into the old movies.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, they need to get that back to the new one. I'm hoping they bring someone in. It won't be Harry Manfredini. They're not going to bring him into the new movie, unfortunately. But I hope they bring someone in who can bring that kind of that older feel to it. I definitely think they should do that.
Yeah, even if they use Steve again. Listen to me talking like we're on a first name basis. But yeah, if they bring Steve, if they bring Steve-O back in again, maybe he'll cue up the strings a little bit. Everybody, we're talking with Jason Parker here. His website. Stop listening to the webcast right now or the podcast and punch up www.fridaythe13thfranchise.com. Join the discussion over at fridaythe13thfanatics.com. Jason, thanks so much for being on the Necronomicast, and hopefully maybe we can chat again like when the movie's, gearing up, or the TV show, or the video game.
Or the video game, definitely. Yeah, no, that would be great. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed being able to talk to you tonight.
Thanks a lot, man. Listen, everybody, check out his website if you're into the, and it's not just news. He has retrospectives. There's cool collectibles. There's all kinds of things. He'll pull up. Jason finds all these pictures of posters from Japan that are advertising 30-year-old movies. I mean, if you're a fan of pop culture at all, horror pop culture at all, regardless of what you think of Jason Voorhees, check out his website and spend some time going up and down it because you'll enjoy it. Jason, thanks, man.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You bet, my man. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you next time down the dark alley.
You've been listening to the Necronomicast, a weekly podcast produced by Wayne Brecky, part of the Free Life Media Network. For show notes and other information, go to necronomicast.com.